Pop this chat up. We live on my end? Yes, we are. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to Hawks Hoops Live, your weekly NBA show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. My name is Hawk. Thanks for pulling up. If you're pulling up live, if you're part of Rewatch Gang, we appreciate you as well. We got a lot to talk about today, so honestly, I'm just going to go ahead and dive into this. As people pull in, you know what I mean? Pop something in the chat, say what's up. We'll have a conversation, have a dialogue. As you always know, we're here to just chat and talk some hoops for about an hour every Wednesday, 8 p.m. All right. So free agency just kicked off last Friday, 6 p.m. I want to say it started last Friday. There's been a ton of moves already since then. And there's still some teams that I think have to make some moves. I'm looking at you Sixers. I'm looking at you Trailblazers. There's a couple of other teams on my list, but we'll get to that. A lot of teams have been making moves. I don't think we'll get to everything, to be honest with you, but it's a lot that I want to talk about, so I'm just going ahead and dive right into it. What's good, my guy? How you doing today? This is, if I'm not mistaken, this is Rage, right? I'm pretty sure this is Rage. What's good, Rage? Yeah, Celtics. The Celtics are cooking. They have lost two dogs. Dame time. Miami is interested in Dame. We're going to talk about that in a second. I thought it was Rage. What's good with you? Like I said, a lot that we have to talk about today. I'm going to kick it off first. I want to talk about the Lakers. I want to start it off talking about the Lakers because to me, I'm not 100% certain, but I feel like they have done the most this postseason so far, at least this free agency period so far. So for the Lakers, just a couple of things. One of the things that I think a lot of people forgot about, or that we, the idea that the Lakers maybe not forgot, but let me get my thoughts together. Going into last season, Lakers had a really rough start, right? Started out horrible. Everybody was wondering what is happening with this team. Russ wasn't looking good at all. Just the team as a whole looked horrible. They make a ton of blockbuster trades, finish the season, the second half of the season with the second best record in the NBA after the trade deadline, and they make themselves to the Western Conference Finals and lose in the eventual NBA championships in the Denver Nuggets. They made a ton of moves. And yes, the Lakers built up a squad this offseason so far. So they bring back Rui Hachimura. They bring back Austin Reeves on what I think is actually a really good deal. I remember initially the rumors were going around that they were willing to give Austin Reeves up to $100 million. I thought that would have been honestly insane, but he turned out getting a 4-year, $56 million deal. That's only $14 million a year. That's a really, really good deal for Austin Reeves, a guy who was 16 points per game in the playoffs, 44% from three on 5 attempts a game. They add Cam Reddish, someone who I think has had I'll say tumultuous career. He's had some ups, he's had some downs. I don't think he's lived up to the potential that a lot of people had for him, but we'll see. New city with a great playmaker like LeBron, it might unlock some things for him. We'll see. Brought back D'Angelo Russell, stole Gabe Vincent from Miami. They have just continued. Oh, and last but not least, added Jackson Hayes and Taurean Prince to their lineup as well. Taurean Prince, I think, is going to be a really good, versatile forward who can shoot and defend. Just adding some more versatility to that front court. They can't go wrong on that aspect. The Lakers, Rage said it here, everything depends on LeBron and Anthony Davis's health. I don't necessarily disagree with you there, but if there's anything they've shown us last year is that if they have the right pieces around them, they can win games. And the formula is versatile defenders and guys who can shoot. And they've done that. They've done that this season. They still have Jarred Vanderbilt. I like what the Lakers are doing. I'm not going to sit here and do predictions because we got to see what the rest of the Western Conference looks like. We'll definitely do some predictions on where we think teams will land later in the offseason. But as of right now, the Lakers are one of the best teams in terms of how they handled free agency. They did everything they needed to do. They addressed their issues, they addressed their weaknesses, and they filled the gaps. I love what the Lakers and Rob Pelinka did this offseason. Sliding on down to the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns, we talked about them a lot. They added Bradley Beal. One of the big things we were wondering is what is the rest of this roster going to look like? Well, we have some answers. They lost a couple pieces that I think are important to them. Like, I wish they would have been able to keep Jock Landale. I think they needed a good backup big, and I think he was able to do that for them. Curious to see what that looks like for them now. But they filled in a couple of other holes. Adding Eric Gordon to this team, although I think it's a couple years too late. Eric Gordon had been linked to joining the Phoenix Suns, honestly, for the past 2-3 years. I wish he was there sooner, but he's still a good player to add to their lineup. Now, they didn't really in my opinion, solve some of their perimeter defense issues. But Eric Gordon is a guy who can spread the floor, who can shoot. He's a guy who has some veteran leadership and a veteran presence and just has a good IQ and is going to be able to do smart things with the basketball. Don't expect a ton of primary ball handling responsibilities from Eric Gordon or a lot of shot creation from Eric Gordon, but he can work in that second unit. He can, if he's playing with the first unit, he can be a spot up shooter, just help spread the floor and create some space for Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and those guys. Good pickup for him. Damian Lee, another guy who I don't want to say had an up and down career. He started out his career great, started winning championships with the Warriors, and I feel like I haven't heard much from him since. Bringing him back is solid for them. Adding Chimezie Metu, I thought was a solid pickup, just having a young energy guy, a young energy forward who can bring some versatility. Bringing back Josh Okogie was smart. And then another piece that I thought was really, really good for them in terms of adding some depth and some versatility to this roster was Yuta Watanabe. Yuta the shooter was a great pickup for them. Floor spacer, he can use his length. He's used to playing with Kevin Durant during their time together in Brooklyn. And during their time in Brooklyn, he proved to be a solid, versatile defender. They're adding some defense. Yuta Watanabe is going to get a lot of minutes for this Phoenix Suns team. Honestly, after looking at everything that they've done, I don't think they're going to make any more moves. I think we're looking at the Phoenix Suns roster, and this roster ain't bad. Like, it's still, I wish there was some more, but how much more can you want when you already have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant on your team? And let me not forget DeAndre Ayton. Considering the opportunity and the type of contracts they could sign, I think they did a pretty good job. All these guys signed to either a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal or like a 1+1. So they kept some flexibility to be able to make some adjustments next offseason. If this season doesn't go their way, the Suns did good. Shout out to Matt Ishbia and James Jones over there in Phoenix. They got it done. Oh, okay. Yeah. Ninja, what's good with you, my guy? We'll get to the Sixers in a second. I already know you're going to ask about them. We'll get to the Sixers in a second. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, one of the teams that, let me say this. Kyrie goes on, well, I don't know, how I'm remembering it is these were reports saying that Kyrie was going to meet with almost every team in the NBA, that he was going to drag out the free agency process, that he was open to returning, but he wanted to see what the market was like for him out there, basically on the open market from other teams. Well, it turns out, I guess maybe the market wasn't that crazy. He decides to return to the Mavericks, 3-year deal, about $130 million. He get a bag, and the Mavericks are able to keep him. When I tell you it was so crucial for the Mavericks to be able to keep Kyrie Irving, if they did not keep him, if he decided to go somewhere else, that truly could have just derailed this entire franchise. You could have saw Luka decide to demand a trade sometime this season or next season, because how much they traded away to get Kyrie there. It would have been a huge crush to them if he decided to walk away. He stays, doesn't really solve some of their defensive issues of having a backcourt of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. But we saw last season in spurts that offense is really, really amazing. And now they have a full offseason to try to maybe work out together in the offseason, at least go through a full training camp, because there were times where it felt like it was kind of a my turn, your turn thing with Luka and Kyrie. Now they have time to really generate a good offense that's built around the two of them. They add Seth Curry on a 2-year deal. I thought that was actually really, really good. Seth Curry is one of those guys that if you are a contending team or you are a team that's trying to make a deep playoff run, adding Seth Curry is amazing because he can come off your bench and be a 6-man spark plug, or he can start alongside your other lead guard and be just a guy who can catch and shoot, a guy who can create his own shot, a guy who can at times even create for others a little bit. Seth Curry is a really, really good guard. And I'll go as far as say an elite shooter. His pull-ups game is elite. His catch and shoot game is elite. Seth Curry is great. And I don't know if everyone realizes how great Seth Curry is. It's a really, really good pickup for the Mavericks in terms of having someone else outside of Kyrie and outside of Luka who can create shots and score. They need that, and he's going to bring that to them. Dwight Powell signing a 3-year deal is really, really good for them. Dante Exum signed there. And when I tell you, I feel like I haven't heard that name in years. He actually hasn't played since 2021. They bring a 6'5" guard who, wasn't in the NBA for the last season. So we'll see what he can do. It's only a 1-year deal. in theory, the promise is he should be a versatile defender who can score a little bit. That's what Dante Exum was supposed to be coming into the league, and this athletic guard who can defend a little bit, score a little bit. Oh, you saying Dame the Boston confirmed because of we about to get to this, Sleazy. The biggest thing that came through literally about a half hour ago was Grant Williams in a sign and trade, 4 years, $54 million, joining the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks in the process lose Reggie Bullock, which I think they're going to miss. I wish there was a world where they were able to keep Reggie and add Grant, just as much defense as possible with this lineup. I'm not saying it's kind of a hand washing in terms of swapping Reggie for Grant, but it kind of is just like a swapping of defensive wings who can kind of play big, play some defense, and shoot a little bit. But Reggie was a better shooter than Grant, in my opinion. And the Celtics get a bunch of second-round picks in return. In my mind, they still lack a lot of perimeter defense. Grant Williams is going to be good in terms of being a versatile defender. He can kind of guard the perimeter. He can guard inside a little bit. We'll see what he can do. I think they're going to lean on him a lot in terms of really pushing his defensive boundaries of how much he can defend. They're going to lean on him a lot, and we'll see what happens there. But I do want to say, since we're talking about that opens up, since we're here, the Mavericks getting Grant Williams, like Sleazy's saying, opens up the opportunity for Boston to make a move and make a real move for Damian Lillard, because they can offer him a lot. We'll see what happens with that. We'll get to the Dame stuff in a second. Honestly, I'm not sick of talking about Dame, but I'm sick of talking about Dame for a lack of a better phrase until he decides to go somewhere. G, what's good with you? The NBA did just release new info in the end season tournament. We're gonna look it up in a little bit. I haven't really read it. I was going to read it on stream. I'm looking forward to the end season tournament. I don't know how much players will be interested. I know I saw that it's like a 3-day tournament. It's in Vegas. We'll take a quick pit stop since we're here. Let me go to Twitter. I just saw NBA and end season tournament. Details announced an hour ago from NBA.com. Screen share right. Let's see what they're saying about this, because I honestly really haven't looked at it myself. Big news coming. Special edition. Not this post just saying information is coming, but not actually telling me what the information is. Here we go. Shout out to Woj. Come on. All right, from Woj. The NBA's new in-season tournament Final Four is set for December 7th and 9th in Vegas. Statistics will count for the league's regular season, except the championship game of the event. Is that all the information that they really released about it? And maybe that's all they released. I might have to catch some more later, because I haven't seen. That's all I saw earlier was that tweet. I haven't been able to catch up and see what else was going on. If Boston get Dame low key, we might have to, or wait till they come to Philly. That's knowing us. This one's more likely. I don't know how I feel about that tournament. My quick thoughts on the tournament is, as a fan, I think it'll be cool. I'm curious to see. I remember at one point it was rumored, especially shout out to Kevin O'Connor. You know, I'm a big fan of his work. But at one point it was rumored and it was speculated that there might be some sort of playoff incentive of winning the end season tournament in terms of seeding or being able to choose your opponent or a play-in bye. There were a lot of speculations in terms of what winning the end season tournament might mean for you, or even if it has any implications on the regular season or for the actual playoffs, I should say. I don't think it will, from at least what I've seen. Maybe we'll talk about it more next week or I have some more information. For me, the only hesitation I have for the end season tournament is the biggest big name players, not all of them. I don't want to put it on all of them, but we already know a lot of the big name players don't play full 82 game seasons. Heck, a lot of the big name players last year ain't even played 60 games. So I'm very curious to see what type of incentive the NBA is going to give players to actually put in effort for this end season tournament, or is it going to have the same energy and effort level as the All-Star game? Now, it might feel a little bit different because these guys will, I'm assuming, be playing, in their actual jerseys, playing for their actual team. So there might be a little bit more pride in that of your team being there, because we all know, as much as we love the All-Star game, there's no real effort put in the All-Star game. So we'll see what happens with the in-season tournament. Y'all talking about Dame. All right, moving on. We're just continuing down the list. If you're pulling up, if you just pulled up and joined the stream, appreciate you for pulling up. We're going through, like I said, we're not doing every free agent move, right? We're not doing every free agency move, but we're talking about a lot of moves. One move, it was later down on my list to talk about, but since you brought it up, G, do you think Miles Bridges stays in Charlotte after this year? If you don't know, Miles Bridges signed a 1-year deal with Charlotte. It's not for a lot of money. I can't remember off the top of my head how much it is. This is his opportunity to get back that $100 million he lost. We all know before he had his off-court incidents where he was I'll leave it at that, his off-court incidents. He was slated to honestly probably get $100 million 4-year extension, at least. He had an amazing season. He's a great shooter. He's a good player for the Charlotte Hornets, so they were ready to give him a bag. He fumbled that bag. I would not be surprised if he bounces back and basically picks up where he left off. Someone's going to pay him. I don't know if it's going to be the Hornets. I don't know if it's going to be somebody else. But if he picks up where he left off, it might not be the $100 million. Just being honest with you, it's now a year and a half, almost 2 years later. So he's 2 years older. Teams still might be like, we don't know if you have fully cleaned up your act. So we'll see what he gets. But if he picks up where he left off, he's going to get paid from somebody. $7.9 million. Just gonna say we going all over the place. I'm not gonna hold you. We going all over the place, G. I ain't mad at it. This stuff was on the list. I'll get to some of the other stuff. Let's talk about the Russell Westbrook stuff since G brought it up. I'm not mad at Russell Westbrook's contract. I know a lot of people were saying, yo, because Russ is like $3.5 million. Like, it's not nothing, but nothing. It ain't nothing to us, but to NBA players and to Russ, in terms of the contracts that he's used to be getting over the last couple of years, we got to remember he just came off of making $40 million a year for like 4 years straight. I'm not mad at the contract, though. And this is why. We always talk about how players are perfect example. This is Tobias Harris and my Sixers. One of the things that people hate about Tobias Harris being on the Sixers isn't necessarily his play, but it's his contract. People say he's overpaid, this, that, and the third, yada, yada. Sixers were pigeonholed into a moment where they couldn't let him go. They had to sign Tobias, right? Boom, bada bang. Russ was in almost the opposite situation where he had a great second half of the year with the Clippers, looked solid for them in the playoffs. But he was in a position where, honestly, I don't think anybody else in the league would have wanted to sign him. And I'm not trying to exaggerate there. I really don't think any other team in the NBA was that interested in Russ. Or if there was a couple of teams interested, none of them had as good a situation as the Clippers did for him. He has the opportunity to play on a team that surrounds him with shooting. He's not asked to be, first option guy. It's Kawhi and PG there. It's still their team. But we all know Kawhi and PG don't play a whole season. They just don't. And Russ, one of the things that, as much as people have critiques and criticism of Russell Westbrook, one of the things you can almost guarantee that he's going to do is play almost, if not every game in the season. He's typically very, very healthy. So you get this opportunity to play for a team that's trying to contend to win a championship, or at the very least, hope to make a deep playoff run if everybody's healthy. Not that many other teams are probably looking for your services, and this team's going to make you look good. I'm not mad at him staying. He's still got his Jordan money. He's got his endorsement money. He's got his Why Not brand. He ain't hurting for cash. Let's be real here. And if he went to any other team, we'd probably be right back to how we felt about him when he was on the Lakers, of calling him trash, calling him Russell Westbrook, talking about his turnovers. He looked like Russell Westbrook again with the Clippers. So if I'm him, I would also take that pay cut to look like myself and feel like myself again. Facts. It's better to make sense where you're wanted. And the dude is from LA. Like, he's an LA guy. He already had a house in LA. His family's used to the area, so might as well keep your family there and not have to move if you don't need to. So I like it for him. I like it for him. Sleazy says, not gonna lie, I like the moves the Cavs have been making. Let's talk about them. They were the next on the list. The Cavaliers picked up Caris LeVert. He returned on a 2-year deal. I like the move. I was also kind of expecting Caris LeVert to be moved, only because I feel like there were times when Caris, he just was up and down for them this season. He was being Caris LeVert. Well, we all know about Caris. Sometimes he's hot and sometimes he's cold. He doesn't always have the best shot IQ. Sometimes he takes some shots that make you scratch your head a little bit, but he's still kind of young. He's still getting better, and he is still at least a good asset to have on the team, and it's a movable contract that they decided to go in a different direction. Adding George Niang and Max Strus to this team, though, phenomenal choices. Max Strus, we all saw what he did for the Miami Heat on their run to the NBA Finals this year. Great floor spacer, energy guy, but he's a great shooter. He's been a good shooter for the Sixers over these last couple of years that we've had him. He's a decent defender. I don't necessarily say he's going to shut down somebody on the other team or he's an above average defender, but he is going to do is going to give you energy and effort. And sometimes for some guys, that's all you want. If your guys want to give you energy and effort on the defensive end of the ball, that's at least a plus. So, and considering they have already a really, really good defense, I think he's at least going to be able to fit in, and that energy and effort is going to be able to benefit this Cavaliers team. And it adds some versatility to that front court, because one of the things that was not holding back, but one of the things that I go say the Cavaliers struggled with when it comes to their front court is the spacing. He'll be able to make those lineups a little more versatile. He can play with Evan Mobley, slide Evan Mobley to the 5. George Niang can run to the 4, and now you're running a little small ball lineup. You can run George Niang at the 4, and now he's running alongside Jared Allen. Heck, you can run George Niang at the 3 if you really want to, kind of a bigger, slower-ish lineup, and have the other 2 big guys on the floor as well. So he just adds some of that versatility to the front court that I think the Cavaliers needed. It's good moves for them. Add some floor spacing, which is what they needed. And I don't think they're done making moves. Brian Windhorst, maybe like a week ago, did one of those, I can't really say what's going on, but I think something's interesting going on in Cleveland things on ESPN like a week ago. We haven't really heard anything since, but the last time he said that was like a year and a half ago for the Utah Jazz. And then they traded Rudy Gobert for like 20 picks. So when Windhorst says something's going on, I like to pay attention and see what's happening. I don't want the Cavaliers to make too many moves because I like the way their roster is constructed, but I'm curious to see what happens. The Sixers just signed Mo Bamba to a 1-year deal. I mean, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, cool. I hate the Sixers, yo. We'll get to the Sixers in a second. I want to go talk about some other teams before I get upset talking about the Sixers. Let's talk about the Rockets, because a lot of people were talking about that on Twitter the last couple of days. So they signed Dillon Brooks to a 4-year deal. They signed Jeff Green. They signed Jock Landale. They signed Fred VanVleet. One of the things most people was clowning them for was the Dillon Brooks one, it being a 4-year deal. I swore I wrote down what the money was on that. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Who did I say? The Houston Rockets? I got it right here. I'll talk about the Fred VanVleet side of it first while I'm looking for this. I like the Fred addition. I think they've needed some veteran leadership. They needed a point guard. Fred is a winner. He's a champion. As much as Raptors fans were, I'm going to say up and down on Fred this season. He didn't have the type of season that he had the year prior, but defensively, he's still great in my mind. I think a new city and a new coach would help get him back to what he was. I think it was just maybe his time in Toronto was done. I think he's still a good player, and he's not like he's going to be under a bad coach. We forget the Rockets have Ime Udoka. The Rockets have a good coach there. And as much as I love Jalen Green, as much as I love the young guys that are there, I've been saying for the last 2 seasons, they need a point guard. And now they have that in Fred. We'll see what that looks like in terms of the long run. They also drafted Amen Thompson. I like what this team is brewing. Jock Landale is another a very solid big man who's defensive minded, who can bring some defense and just bring some just winning culture to this team. They're forcibly trying to inject some winning culture in the Rockets finally with these signings, and I'm happy for it. Jeff Green, that is a vet's vet. Just came off winning the championship. He's played on tons of teams. He's been in tons of locker rooms, but everywhere he's been, he's always been known as a great teammate and a guy to bring a winning mentality. They've needed a winning mentality here for a while because these young guys have talent. Jalen Green is talented. Şengün is talented. It's time to start putting it together and trying to win games. I don't know how many games the Rockets are going to win. They might be a play-in team. They might be a low playoff seed. They might be a lottery team again. There are a lot of questions I have because I don't know how much I love a Dillon Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green mixture of a backcourt. It's a smaller backcourt still. Fred is a good defender. Dillon Brooks is a good defender, but it is a smaller backcourt. We'll see what happens. There are a lot of questions. They have a good coach. They should at least play winning basketball. I don't know if that's going to turn into wins, but they're going to be attempting to play winning basketball. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. The Dillon Brooks. Oh, I didn't mean to click that. Four-year 80. Dillon Brooks was 4-year 80. I'm not mad at that at all. $20 million a year for Dillon Brooks. It's still movable. I still think he's a good player. I know a lot of people were clowning him for various things. The stuff he was saying about LeBron, his play on the court, his outfits. There were a lot of... He had a really bad year last year. Let's just keep it a B. But I know he can still be a good player. His defense is still there. His shot selection is what makes his shooting numbers look so bad. If he's not taking dumb shots, for the Memphis Grizzlies, he had this green light that he did not need to have. If they dial that back a little bit, I think he can be a really good serviceable player for the Rockets. I think it's more like, yes, the Rockets had money that they had to spend, right? I think they realized that with them still being a young team, with some of the other names that we saw get signed, I'm just looking at, I don't have every free agent written down, but it's not like Kyrie was going to go to the Rockets. Jeremy Grant re-signed with the Trailblazers. I'm looking at guys who got similar money, got a decent bag. Kyrie re-signs. There's no way he was going to the Rockets. It just doesn't make sense for him. Austin Reeves wasn't going to leave. In my opinion, I think this is a good move for them because they needed some vet leadership. And you get that with Fred. You get that with Jeff. I'm not going to say you get that with Dillon, but you at least get that with Fred and Jeff. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Rockets can do. I'll give them that. I am not excited about the Mo Bamba pickup. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not excited about the Mo Bamba pickup. Some other teams that are just around the league that did some things that I thought were interesting. Let me just pull this up before I get into teams that I did not like. There's some teams that made moves. Where are we at? 30-minute mark. There are some teams that made moves that I just simply, I'll be honest, did not like. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think they had a solid free agency. They brought back Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez. I think they pumped fake this for a little bit there. Both of them opting out of their deals. They just restructured for something a little more team friendly. Chris Middleton's back on a 3-year deal. Brook Lopez is back on a 2-year deal. They even brought Jay Crowder back, which made me scratch my head a little bit because they didn't really play him after they traded for him from Phoenix. And then they brought in Malik Beasley, Robin Lopez. They just say, they said, let's run it back. The Bucks, when healthy, are a really good roster. I think Chris Middleton can have a bounce back season. And we all know what Giannis can do. So I'm not too worried about the Bucks. I'm just happy they brought back their guy. There was another signing that I was excited for. Dante DiVincenzo, 4-year deal to the New York Knicks. Add another guard to that guard rotation. I thought was pretty solid for them. Dante's not a flashy name, but he's a guy who's going to play some solid defense, can knock down a couple open shots, some vet leadership. I think that's a good pickup for them. The move, other team I want to talk about that it is something good before we get into the bad stuff. I love what the Sacramento Kings did. There were a lot of rumors going around that the Sacramento Kings were either interested in, at least for me, I would have loved the Kings to look into getting Draymond Green. I know he was linked to them for a little bit if he did not return to the Warriors, which he ended up doing. Shout out to him. There was some talks about Jeremy Grant even to the Kings of throwing him a bag to try to pry him away from Portland. Personally, I was interested in maybe a John Collins sign and trade situation. Like, I would have really liked to see John Collins on that team. I think he would have been a good fit. Unfortunately, he's in Utah, and I don't know if I'm going to see him that much because I don't be watching Utah that often, but I guess I'm going to have to now because John Collins, for some reason, is one of those guys that I'm high on. I think I'm way higher than I should be, probably, but I decided he was going to be a guy I was going to have an upside on, so I'm sticking with it. I like his game still. I'm hoping the new city helps him out a lot. But I will say I liked what the Sacramento Kings did. You bring back Harrison Barnes. You extend Sabonis. They didn't do too much. They didn't. And then the money they got Harrison Barnes for compared to like Jeremy Grant's contract or Draymond Green's contract, it's a steal. So they said, we got a nice little team. We like what we're doing here. Let's just run it back. Let's, Keegan Murray will be a year older. Everybody will have another year of now they've been to the playoffs. They got some playoff experience. They know teams will have a target. They'll have a target on their back now. Teams will be ready for the dribble handoffs. Teams will be ready for Sabonis playmaking out of the high post. Teams will be ready for Keegan Murray running off of screens. Teams will be more prepared for them. So I'm very excited to see what they do going into next season. And I like that they didn't do too much. Yes, both Lopez Butters on the Bucks. Dante to y'all. Dante seemed like a guy that y'all would have. Dante would be. Oh, let me do this. Boop. There we go. Dante seemed like a guy y'all would have. Dante would be y'all Peyton Pritchard replacement. If y'all, I can't remember if y'all actually did get rid of him. I remember he wanted it out for a little bit. Off the top of my head, though, I can't remember if y'all did get rid of him. The Toronto Raptors picked up Jaden McDaniels. I thought that was a really good pick. They bring back Jakob Poeltl, and they pick up, I hated the way this was worded. They picked up Dennis Schroeder, and I remember the headline being Dennis Schroeder, the Raptors quickly moved to replace Fred VanVleet by signing Dennis Schroeder. That's not really a replacement, in my opinion. We'll see what Dennis can do in Toronto. Good luck, Toronto. Calling Dennis Schroeder the Fred VanVleet replacement, and my mind tells me that franchise is not headed in the right direction. And then also, shout out to Kyle Kuzma. I don't think we talked about this last week. He had officially returned to the Washington Wizards. So now you'll see Kuzma and Jordan Poole being able to play off of each other. I think that's a good look for Washington. I think they're going to be fighting for a play-in team, to be completely honest with you. Looking at just off the top of my head what the rest of the Eastern Conference looks like. But I think y'all will at least be exciting to watch with Kuzma and Poole playing off of each other. Yeah, we lost McDaniels. That was he was a free agent. Like we traded for him. He was a free agent at the end of the season. We're going to miss him because he was good for us. All right, let's talk about teams that I don't like what they're doing, or I haven't liked what they're doing yet, mainly because I feel like they haven't done much. I want to start out with the Heat first because I kind of like and don't like what they've done. So I like adding Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant agrees to a 2-year deal. Kevin Love decides to come back on a 2-year deal. You pick up Josh Richardson for a 2-year deal, so he's coming back home. I mean, y'all can have him. I have a chip on my shoulder when it comes to Josh Richardson because he was a part of the sign-in trade that Philly did with Miami to give Miami Jimmy Butler, and we took back Josh Richardson, and he was trash for us. So I don't really rock with Josh Richardson, but if he wouldn't go back to Miami, it is what it is. The bone that I have to pick with the Miami Heat is I think they're banking on getting Damian Lillard a little bit too much at this point. Both Max Strus and Gabe Vincent are gone, signed contracts to other teams. Yes, Tyler Hero is coming back, but you just lost very significant guard depth in Strus and Vincent. And now it's been like a weekend of free agency. A lot of teams are buying up the solid guards around the league. If they don't get Dame, I'm very curious to see what their next move is going to be. And the Trailblazers have made it clear that while Miami is where Dame has said he wants to go, or at least it's reported that Dame wants to go to Miami, the Blazers have said that they're not necessarily taking into consideration where he wants, and they're looking for the best package possible. So he might not end up on the Miami Heat. There's other teams that could, join the bidding war for him. The Celtics have been linked. The Sixers have been linked. I saw the Jazz have been linked. There are a lot of teams that are interested in Damian Lillard. Miami Heat might not win that bidding war. And if they don't, after losing the two guards that got them to the finals, it's going to be rough. This is going to be a rough year for them next year. I'm very curious to see what the Miami Heat do to shore up the guard play and the guard position. Do the Heat even have a viable trade package for Portland? Like, I don't think they want Tyler and Duncan. What are Portland even looking for? That's the part of the question. I don't know exactly what Portland's looking for. Part of it is, yes, are they looking for Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson? And then if you do that, now your backcourt's just Dame. Like, there are so many questions that go into this. They might want Nikola Jovic as well, the young big down there in Miami. We'll see. I hope they figure something out. For me, and we'll talk about this when I get to the Sixers in a second, the free agency window, things happen so fast in that first week. A lot of names get signed real fast in that first week. So whenever a team doesn't really do anything at all, it makes me nervous, and that's how I feel about the Sixers right now. So as we all know, James Harden opted into his player option. Like, okay, swap James Harden for Damian Lillard. I doubt that's what the Trailblazers want, but in my fan mind, and if we're playing 2K, that's what I would do. But other than swapping James Harden for Damian Lillard, personally, honestly, I want James Harden to stay a Sixer. I think that's the best bet at this point. After all these teams have done these signings and some other teams have made trades and stuff like that, unless something else really surprised me, I haven't seen a trade that makes us any better than keeping James Harden. Because the other trades are like, okay, you trade James Harden and for like some depth and some role player guys, but that doesn't make us better than just having James Harden in my mind. I'm saying keep Harden. And yes, at one point, everybody thought Harden to Houston was a lock. Personally, I never really saw it because in my mind, I was like, there's no need for Houston to get Harden at the way they were presently constructed at the time. Because for the money that Harden wanted, they wouldn't have been able to fill out the rest of the roster the way that they have. I think Harden should stay. We'll see if he does. Shout out to what is his name? Michael Rubin, former Sixers owner. Well, former majority owner. I think he's like a minor owner now. Or he might have sold all his pieces entirely because I know he was trying to get into sports betting. But his party, his all-white party, it was James Harden and Tobias and Daryl Morey, and it was Joel Embiid, all there keying, having a good old time. I'm hoping he stays. We'll see what happens. No, that's the thing. Their pick and roll is one of the best in the league. The James Harden, Joel Embiid 2-man game pick and roll is one of the best in the league. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens with the rest of that. Oh, all right. We're at the 40-minute mark. A couple of other teams I wanted to just touch on real quick. Somebody said something about, you said something about the Celtics. The Celtics, the only like question mark I have for the Celtics that is still lingering in my mind is who's your new starting PG? I guess you can have Derek White step up into that starting role. Losing Marcus Smart, I think, like I said, we said this last week. I think they're really going to miss him. I'm very curious to see what their starting point guard situation looks like now. Unless I'm missing something off the top of my head, I don't remember if they picked up another guard to. Yeah, no, not to my knowledge. They haven't picked up another guard to fill that role. But losing Marcus Smart and Grant, we don't have a lot of dirty work guys. That's actually a really good point. Y'all don't have a lot of dirty work guys now that you've lost Marcus Smart and Grant Williams. Wow. Anyway, I got through my notes a lot faster than I thought I was going to. I mainly just wanted to talk about a couple of teams and the moves that they made. And then hopefully by next week, some stuff has died down. There's not as much movement, and we can get into some real speculation. I'm looking forward to that. I trust Derek White running a point better than Marcus Smart, for being honest. Second team all defense has still scored a higher clip than Marcus. We'll see. Derek White did have a really, really good year for y'all last year. That's tough. I get it. I see it. I don't know if I agree with you, Sleazy, but I see it. Derek White did have a really, really good season for you guys last year. But Marcus Smart stepped up. To me, Marcus Smart had a bigger playoff impact than Derek White did. But throughout the regular season, Derek White had a better season. But I think Smart stepped up more for y'all in the playoffs. A little bit of a shorter stream this week. Only at the 41-minute mark. But I didn't have that as much to talk about, and I didn't get much time to get all my notes together. But I wanted to get some initial thoughts on some of the free agencies as more teams finish to shape up their rosters. Maybe we'll get some more speculation next week, or there's a couple of more fun things I have planned for the offseason in terms of we're going to be doing some rankings again this offseason, especially when it start getting dead. We're going to be doing, there's just a couple of quizzes I want to do on stream of biggest NBA moments in history, or at least your favorite moments in history. I want to do that on stream with y'all. So there are a couple of fun things I want to do on stream that we'll definitely do throughout the summer. Speaking of summer, the one thing I have been enjoying so far, I've watched a couple of Summer League games. I watched Chet Holmgren's game the other day. I watched Kenny Lofton Jr.'s game the other day as well. And I'm looking forward to Victor Wembanyama's game. Is that on Friday, the 7th? Yeah, Victor Wembanyama plays on Friday the 7th at 9 p.m., so I'll definitely be tuning into that. So maybe we'll talk about some more Summer League stuff and some rookie speculation next week. We're cutting out a little early this week. If you pull it up now, first time back in a minute. Connie, what's good with you? Unfortunately, you pulling up right at the end of the stream. Rewatch gang is always there. Appreciate you for pulling up regardless. I will see y'all next week, 8 p.m. Eastern. Next week stream, I'll give you at least a full solid hour next week. I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Boop. Boop.